A company called 8BitDo just sent us two Bluetooth controllers that look like they belong with the NES and the Famicom. Let's take a look. I'm not a big fan of touchscreen video games. Now, while some games are designed with a touchscreen in mind, there's a lot of developers out there that make games that feel like they should have been created for consoles or maybe PC, but they still make it for those touchscreen devices. Usually they have like an on-screen D-pad with some buttons and stuff, and it never really works. A couple of games do it better than others, and some do it really well, but the majority out there really suck. So these controllers interest me a lot because not only do they have that retro aesthetic of an original NES and in this case, original Famicom controller, but these things here kinda add a lot more to just your basic NES D-pad output. Right here you've got a basic NES D-pad, right here, which works really well, and it's got the nice rolling function that you'd want from a real NES D-pad. But it also has B and A and X and Y, which you wouldn't have seen on an original NES controller. You've got your start and select, which are common, and then you've got two little thumbsticks down here that can also be pushed in for additional input. Then on the top, you have an L1 and L2 and an R2 and an R1 button swap so that you can actually have just extra additional functions for whatever game you're playing. This is pretty neat, because you'd think that this controller would suck because it looks like they threw way too much stuff onto it, but it doesn't. In fact, with an original NES controller, when you hold onto those things, they've got that box design, so after a while, your hand feels uncomfortable. But what they've done here is they've rounded everything off, so it feels really good in the hands. This is incredibly impressive, because I didn't expect this controller to feel and handle so well. Both of these controllers here are incredibly well manufactured, and honestly, from a build standpoint, amazing, amazing, amazing quality. Stuff you wouldn't expect. Now the NES controller has a plastic cover because that's just the way that would have been done, but the Famicom one has a shiny kind of brushed metal feature on here, and it is like real metal, which I wasn't expecting. I thought these things were just going to be stickers, but this isn't. These guys have put a lot of detail into the aesthetic of these controllers, up to the point that the actual charge cables, well, the colors match the controllers themselves, which are nice. That means they put a lot of time and effort into the design of these things, something you probably wouldn't expect from what you would assume are throwaway Bluetooth controllers. So I sat down and tested out a bunch of video games with these controllers, and I gotta say, they worked really great on mobile games, like I was talking about with touchscreen just taken out of the equation. There's a lot of games that use these things natively and they work fantastic. You can also plug these up directly to the USB straight to your computer and use them to play emulations and older video games like that. Now I did find that these controllers didn't work with every single game out there on the market, but if you're emulating something and you have the ability to put a direct input into them, well, you're going to be able to set these things up perfectly fine. They basically just get used as generic USB controllers. But with mobile games, you'll find that certain games don't actually make use of controllers, and in certain cases, you won't be able to just get them to work. 8BitDo has some software you can download that can basically help you attach these things to certain games, but they don't work for everything, which is just basically the par for the course. Everyone knows to accept that kind of stuff when you're playing mobile games with these kind of controllers. You'll be able to hook up these controllers to multiple devices to play games on. They work on Mac, Linux, PC, Android, and of course iOS. But they also work as Wii remote controllers for your original Wii, which is really cool, so you can play some virtual console games using these controllers like you would any other Wii controller. Now, the one thing I found that I wasn't really happy with was the fact that these controllers are almost a nightmare to hook up to whatever you're trying to hook up to. Now, on the sides, they have these glowing lights, which arguably look amazingly cool. But the problem is that those lights actually tell you what function you're enabling. So they'll tell you if you're hooking up to PC or whatever. And the really big issue is you never quite know exactly what's being hooked up where. It'll take you a couple of minutes just to hook up from one device to another. So don't expect to be hooking these up to a million devices all at once because it can be taxing. The manual that comes with these controllers, you gotta keep close by because whenever you want it to hook up to any other device, these buttons on the bottom, which are kind of nondescript, mean a bunch of different things, and you need to know what they work for. Now, everything we tested them out on works perfectly fine, but it took some doing to kind of get them attached. So the difficulty on these things is really high up there, but once you get them to work, they are fantastic. The D-pads work, the analog sticks are great, the buttons are very clicky and responsive, and even the start and select buttons are little rubber, just like they would have been on the original controllers that they're inspired by. Now both the NES 30 Pro and the FC30 Pro controllers come with really good boxes. Usually this isn't a highlight when you're getting these kind of controllers because you really don't care, but these boxes were well packaged with a lot of really cool additionals. Now to begin with, they both come with USB to USB micro lines. Now these are the things you're going to use to hook up to the PC and recharge them. But they also came with these little kinda neat keychains, which were cool, and I like them because they're nice looking, but they really don't do anything for the controllers. The weird thing that they came with, though, was these little, I don't know, things. Alex and I were sitting there and we were trying to figure out exactly what these were for, but we couldn't figure it out. The worst thing about playing portable games on a mobile phone is that you have to hold your mobile phone in one hand or lean it up against something and play the game with this. Now, the problem is there's no bracket or anything to hold the phone in front of you, so you're always going to have to lean it up somewhere. Now, Alex and I initially thought that that's what these things were for, to basically lock your phone in place, but well, we didn't think that that's what they're for in the end because we couldn't figure out any way to hook them up. Both of these things have a sticky back so you can hook it up to a wall or I guess the controller and a little metal ring. The best we could figure out is that this is a wall mount so that you can hook up your keychain to the wall. Now we might be wrong, but that's as best as we could figure out. Now other than these two weird things, that's kind of the only strange stuff you'll find in the box. Both the manuals are very easy to understand and they give you really great directions on how to hook up everything, even though they might take a little bit longer than average. But both controllers are worth the price. They are fantastic little controllers that are Bluetooth, battery powered, and great. I would recommend these things if you are looking for something to play, I don't know, emulators or anything on your phone. Like an emulator, actually. So, if you're in the market and you want some really cool Bluetooth controllers that look like an NES controller and a Famicom controller with a bunch of additional buttons and joysticks, these things are the way to go. Other than that, though, you may not want to be getting these things for playing regular Steam games on your computer. They're probably not going to work for that. Good controllers overall, though. Recommended by.